In 2004, 3 years after the release of the Xbox's Titan exclusive Halo Combat Evolved, Bungie came back after what could only be described as one of the most stressful development cycles and released the even more anticipated game Halo 2. Halo 2 was huge. It caused grand-scale midnight launches. It was one of the fastest selling games out there, and it became a huge media talking point, one of the first games to actually make the mainstream news. With it came one of the most praised and iconic stories in gaming history, a story that would completely change the way FPS games worked and played a big part in the shaping of the industry as a whole. When Halo 2 came out, I stayed up all night playing it. I bought all the guides, I got the merchandise, and I just loved everything about its launch. It was one of the first games I was truly excited for. Never before had I been this hyped for a game in my life. After Halo 2's release on PC, I went back to the game to see if that story was really as good as it was back in the day. Did this story really hold up, and was it as iconic as I remember? Short answer is yes. Yes, it still holds up, and yes, it is still one of the best video game stories out there, especially within the FPS genre. So in this video, I want to go over all the reasons why I truly believe Halo 2 was such a grand success. I want to look at all the design choices and elements Bungie added to this beloved franchise that helped Halo 2 stand out as the best in the series, and ultimately I want to give you my view as to why this game was so iconic. So welcome to WiseFish, and today I will be reviewing the forever classic game, Halo 2. In Halo Combat Evolved, there was a real fresh take on the FPS genre. Before that game, a lot of shooters had a somewhat basic style of storytelling. Most of the time, the focus really was on making an engaging and fun shooter where gunplay was the core focus. But going into Halo Combat Evolved, the story was crucial to its overwhelming success. But this story wasn't specifically focused on the Master Chief, Cortana, Captain Keyes, Sergeant Johnson, or even the Covenant. The story of Combat Evolved focused on this, the Halo Ring. The Ring was the main character to what made Combat Evolved stand out. This story had you exploring a brand new environment. It wanted you to feel a sense of wonder and mystery as you explored these ancient yet advanced temples and new landscapes. Your goal was to work out what this place was, who built these structures, and what its overall purpose was, all whilst fighting off the Covenant. Sure, the game introduced the Flood, the Sentinels and all that, but at the end of the day, the core story plot was finding out what Halo's true purpose was, that it was a weapon that could cause destruction on a galactic scale and could wipe out all of mankind and anything else that inhabited the universe, all because of these parasitic creatures who had wiped out your squad as well as the Covenant forces. Halo Combat Evolved, funnily enough, was about the world of Halo, but it left the door open for so much additional lore and a universe that had so much more to show.
Halo, it's finished.
No, I think we're just getting started.
When going into Halo 2, however, Bungie clearly acknowledged that there was so much more going on within the universe, and that is brilliantly executed in a far more layered story compared to its older brother. Halo 2 doesn't just look at one specific thing, it looks at a vast array of subjects that all blend into this one extremely detailed narrative, yet still kept that same sense of mystery and wonder. Halo 2's story really feels like a cinematic adventure. You forget that when watching these cinematics and listening to the dialogue through every level that you are playing an FPS game. It's hard to forget, especially with the games we get now, that no shooter had done this level of storytelling before. There were no games like Halo 2, and there is a reason why it catapulted the story-focused games that we have today. Halo 2 explored many themes compared to what Combat Evolved did. Within the first 5 minutes, we are given context into who the Covenant actually are. We learn that they are so much more than just these aliens who wish harm on humanity. We see that they are more than just big, tall, blue guys called elites, funny grunts, and harsh-sounding jackals. We learn that they are an army formed under the same ideology. We realize that this to them is part of a much greater plan. This is basically a religious order. Throughout our adventures in Halo 2, we get to learn more about them as an army. We see how much they idolize these Halo structures and Forerunner technology. We see how much humanity is a threat to their cause, and we learn about their leaders' truth, mercy, and regret. There is a real depth to the enemy we encounter. They have gone from being these two-dimensional enemies from the first game to fully fleshed out characters, ones villains with backstories, a motive, and real reasons to exist in this vast universe. The introduction of the prophets in particular enables this whole narrative of the Covenant to make sense. You see who is behind their cause pulling the strings, and suddenly this army becomes one that we recognize from real world experiences. We see how these weak and feeble creatures are able to influence those around them because of their overwhelming power, and how they have used this religion of theirs to control the other races around them. When you look at both the elites, the brutes, and then the prophets, it's hard to see how the prophets are in power, especially considering how beastly the brutes and the elites are. But because the game has established this grand religion they all believe in, you realize that the prophets have set up all these rules to put people into place, and we see how they can control the races below them thanks to the trial with Thel at the beginning of this campaign. As I mentioned a minute ago, Halo 2 helped identify who you are actually fighting against. This mysterious yet deadly enemy from the first game had now been fleshed out into something far more understandable. You realize why they are together, why they are so persistent, and also you see how they actually work as an army. These bits of narrative help immerse the players into the world of Halo. It makes them care for why they are taking on these enemies. It makes you want to hunt them down more, and gives humanity a real purpose for why they need to take down the Covenant army. With the Covenant, we then go on to explore different themes. We look at power struggles, corruption, religious lies, and also tradition. There is a real depth to them as an order, something that really helps them stand out as a terrifying enemy to fight against, but also a really interesting one to learn about. But the story doesn't just stop there. We also get a much larger look into the UNSC themselves, how they operate, how they conduct themselves as a faction, and also how much they look up to and respect their greatest warrior, the Master Chief. One of my favourite bits from this story is actually the beginning scene with Master Chief receiving his medal. This juxtaposition with that and the public shaming trial of Thel in the Holy Citadel really displayed to the player the impacts from the last game. It shows them how the UNSC's morale is at an all-time high because of their big victory over the Covenant. And on the other side, it gives you a good sense into the Covenant's morale and how they see this loss and the destruction of the ring as a blasphemous action on their religion. Throughout all of Halo 2's campaign, as you venture the new maps, you are being told something new about the characters in the story. We learn more about who Sergeant Johnson is, for example, and how he is the motivator for the UNSC army. We also get more of an insight into Cortana in this game. She isn't a two-dimensional AI within this. She feels way more human than before, with some really great dialogue between her, the Chief, and Johnson. But also being able to play as the Arbiter, although controversial when this game came out, just allows you to explore the other side to the Human Covenant War. Within the first level of this, we see that the Covenant isn't all that perfect. There are heretics trying to speak out against the lying and deceitful prophets, and you are there to silence their false preachings. It's proof that maybe there are darker things lurking on within the Covenant, and that may not be present right now, but you'll be able to explore that going forward. Learning the truth behind the Covenant and the Prophet's goals as you see the brutes commit genocide on the elite forces is a really powerful story and proof of brilliant narrative writing. Match that with the beautiful cinematic music to back that revelation moment in Uprising makes for a really nice somber moment, one where you really end up caring for the Arbiter and the elites, something you didn't think you'd be doing going into this game. But finally, alongside all these great detailed personal stories for the humans, the Arbiter, and the elites, you also get to know the Flood more. Once again, these horrifying creatures from the first game were much more fleshed out, no pun intended. They were also given a motive, they had a purpose, and the way the writers created this disgusting, horrifying Gravemind as their leader really enhanced their threat. You realise they aren't just mindless zombies there to kill you, they are another faction with a hive mind, and this is what can become of the whole universe. Halo 2's story was just so fleshed out, it really went above and beyond with its storytelling compared to the first game. It characterised the UNSC as a faction, it also characterised your main foe and explained why the Covenant are the way they are. It also characterised the Flood and made them more than just mindless zombies who were there to take over the world, and finally it also gave the characters much more personality to help them stand out and be remembered as those iconic characters. But there was one thing for me that made Halo 2 stand out above Combat Evolved and made it truly stand out as a fantastic storytelling experience, and that was its character dialogue and how it helped enhance characteristics and enforce that theme of hierarchy, especially within the Covenant forces.
When you first saw Halo, were you blinded by its majesty?
Blinded?
Paralyzed? Dumbstruck?
No.
Yet the humans were able to evade your ships, land on the sacred ring, and desecrate it with their filthy footsteps.
Halo 2 is proof that the writers behind Bungie's Halo had a clear idea as to what exactly they wanted from the story. They knew exactly what they wanted the story to focus on, and they also had a passion for their game. The dialogue and writing within this game's narrative is so detailed and helps characterize everyone within it. It really is one of the hardest things in storytelling to picture a character and be able to write them as if you're actually walking in their shoes. But somehow the writing team at Bungie were able to not only be able to write realistic sounding dialogue that felt natural to the character saying it, but they were also able to tell more of a story as to who these races are within the Covenant. We are able to see more of who the Brutes are as a race, what type of enemies the Elites are, and also just get some really great scenes between the humans and the Covenant. To start with, let's look at the Arbiter. In fact, let's look at the whole of the Elites. There's a reason why the Elites were named the way they are. They were the ones at the top of the army. They were always at the back of the squad and the most powerful ones to face when in battle. They were the elite of the squad. Literally. With that, their design also helped show that. They were lean, upright, and moved around the battlefield with grace. They were the epitome of a perfect slender warrior who could use their speed and skill to dominate the battlefield. In Combat Evolved, we learnt that from the way they moved and presented themselves when they stood in rooms. But Halo 2 enforced that by the way they delivered their dialogue. With every elite within their game, there is a sense of honor. They are proud warriors. You can tell that they live for this day to prove themselves in battle, and they are proud to be the highest ranking soldiers in their military. During battles, when you play as the Arbiter, you hear elite allies scream out war cries and taunt their enemies with phrases like, "I was born from this moment," or "You are no warrior."
You are no warrior.
They are also super proud of their religion at the beginning. The fact that they always call you demon and the way they reference holy warriors and everything characterize them as true believers of this great journey.
Sentinels, the holy warriors of the sacred rings. Why have they sided with these heretics?
Also, they always look up to you as the Arbiter.
We're with you, Arbiter!
This holy warrior chosen by the prophets and a traditional warrior from their culture. The Arbiter is proof that they are an honorable race. Within this scene where he becomes the Arbiter himself, here he frequently states that he is nothing now because he has disgraced the Covenant. There is a real pride to this race, and you see that frequently throughout the game. Their dialogue is just so well written that it helps you to understand exactly who they are as a character.
Even on my knees, I do not belong in their presence.
One of the most notable scenes within Halo 2 was the monologue by Shipmaster Artus Verdum. Here he shows what it's like to be an honourable elite commander, one who takes pride in the Covenant and would die for it. But it also shows that he has a heart and he cares about his men over everything else. It's an amazing speech and it is delivered so well by the voice actor.
On the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the Covenant, even to our dying breath. Those who would break this oath are heretics, worthy of neither pity nor mercy.
This cutscene really made me feel pumped for their mission, which was very odd at the time considering they are still technically your enemy. But there was so much passion that I understood from Artus, and I could see how honourable and respectable these warriors really were.
You are the Arbiter, the will of the prophets. But these are my elites. Their lives matter to me, yours does not. That makes two of us.
On the flip side, with the Brutes, you get a far more harsh and deadly dialogue, which is extremely fitting with who they are as a race. Here, these creatures talk like they are filled with rage and can pick a fight with anyone they wanted, even their fellow comrades. Every line of dialogue Tartarus delivers is sinister, and a lot of time he loses his temper and threatens someone's life.
One more word, Oracle, and I'll rip your eye from its socket! Which is nothing compared to what I'll do to you.
Which, if you compare it to the elites, they are far more honourable with their callings.
Shall cut into the heart of this infestation, retrieve the icon, and burn any flood that stand in our way.
Because of how well the dialogue for the Brutes are, you get an instant characterization for what they are going to be like in battle. You know they are going to be, well, brutal. They are savage beasts and don't really fight with honor. They are extremely strong but somewhat primitive, and that all comes across through their dialogue within the cutscenes.
Why? Looking for a little payback?
But it isn't just with the Covenant where the dialogue is extremely well written. Within the UNSC forces, every character has their own distinct personalities, and it means that you can relate to each one in their own way. Sergeant Johnson becomes this really great motivator within the game. His speeches are just as good as Artez's, and you could really say that he is basically the human version of Half-Joy.
I brought this motivational device. Our big green style cannot be defeated.
But with his motivational speeches encouraging troops into battle comes his comic relief. His lines are designed to make the player laugh. He has a real sense of comic timing, and it's nice that the writers wanted to not make him this really serious character. From the beginning,
You told me there wouldn't be any cameras.
And you told me you were gonna wear something nice.
to the middle,
Oh, I know what the ladies like.
to the end.
How you doing?
His dialogue is there to make you laugh during serious moments. There's a reason why Johnson became so well loved. It was because he was not only a badass, but he was also the comic relief. There was lots to love about him. Cortana was the same. Within Combat Evolved, while she had some humorous lines at times,
Oh, I see. The coordinate data needs to be... Right. Sorry.
she was more straight to the point. Within this game, you really got to like her and see a more human side to her. She also has some great jokes as well.
You look nice.
Thank you.
This lake couldn't have been formed by volcanic action, which means it was either built this way on purpose or was created by some other cataclysmic event. I'm sorry. Were you trying to kill something?
When you finally leave her at the end of the game, there is a sense like you are leaving behind a good friend, and that is all because her scenes and dialogue throughout the game have made you grow to like her, and you don't want to lose her during this story. But with all the dialogue from all the different races and characters comes the phenomenal voice acting. With good writing, it has to be matched with good voice acting, and an understanding on both sides as to who that character is. From the big characters such as the Arbiter, Truth, Cortana, and the Gravemind, all the way to the smaller characters and characters with less dialogue, every line is delivered within Halo 2's story and is delivered with a real purpose. Every line means something and nothing really falls flat. When Artez is doing his speech, you feel it because you feel the voice actor believing everything he says as if he himself is preparing for battle. When the Arbiter talks about letting the Covenant down and didn't value his life anymore, you feel Keith David's dismay. You fully believe that he has let everyone down and really does not want to be seen ever again. Every character is just brought to life by these fantastic voice actors, and because of the amazing writing matched with those deliveries, the narrative of Halo 2 just becomes full of life with some really real sounding characters and becomes extremely engaging for the player. The writing enhanced the storytelling. It helped characterize every character within the game and added more to the Covenant story once again. I could quote my favorite bits in the story, but being completely honest, from start to finish, every cutscene gripped me and had phenomenal dialogue between every character.
This one is but flesh and faith, and is the more deluded. Kill me or release me, parasite. But do not waste my time with talk.
Interactions were far more than just back and forth dialogue. There was far more depth to it, and even within gameplay, Marines and allied elites make your journey feel more engaging and just add to that experience.
They have shed our brother's blood, and for that they must die.
Overall, the writing is brilliant, and still to this day, some of the best story and dialogue writing in gaming history.
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Halo Combat Evolved was ultimately called that because it introduced a new style of gameplay. It did something completely different from everything else on the market. Sure, it revolutionized FPS games on consoles, but it also brought about the two-gun system. You didn't have a full arsenal like you did in Half-Life or Doom, meaning you had to make crucial decisions about what you take into areas, how you approach encounters, and also just allowed you to experiment at all times with some really unique human and Covenant weapons. Combat Evolved was a breath of fresh air, and so going forward to Halo 2, it was going to be hard to really make dramatic improvements or make it feel new and enjoyable for players. Let's be completely honest, a lot of people were a bit sad to see some of the guns within Halo 2 were cut. The assault rifle and the pistol, for example, being the main ones. This was certainly a weird move considering they were the iconic guns from the first, but I got to admit, as much as I miss those guns within this game, I think Halo 2 has some of the best gameplay in all of the series, and I want to explain why. To start with, the new arsenal that had been introduced into Halo 2 was extremely fitting, and it also allowed the game to play around with really awesome new guns. The battle rifle and the combine rifle suddenly enabled more mid-range combat to be core to the gameplay. The new guns were able to fulfill all the roles of the military arsenal. It was also nice to have guns on the Covenant side that matched the humans. The battle rifle and the combine rifle covered both of their mid-range combat. The rocket launcher and the new fuel rod cannon helped cover the heavy armor section to the arsenal. The sniper rifle is matched with the beam rifle, which covers the long-range combat, and the human shotgun and the new wieldable energy sword covers close quarter combat. It enabled you to see both sides of the military and their full arsenal and how they combat each other. It was also nice to see the brutes have their own weapons as well. It characterized them more with their more brutal styles of weapons, especially with the brute grenade launcher, which is much more rugged in its design. But the new features to Halo 2's combat that really meant something to me was the fact that now both the Chief and the Arbiter can now dual wield some guns. Whilst in game this is incredibly fun to do, it also makes so much sense. Chief is a super soldier. He is incredibly trained with all forms of combat and has the muscle strength to literally bench hundreds of kilograms with ease. Having him being able to use 2 SMGs or 2 plasma rifles at the same time not only makes for some really great fun combat, it also makes sense for him as a soldier. It makes you feel far more like a super soldier as he storms through groups of enemies, taking them out left, right and center with 2 extremely powerful guns. But in terms of gameplay, it also allows the player to experiment far more with your arsenal. You can literally play around with whatever layout you like. You can have 2 plasma pistols if you want for some reason. You can have a plasma rifle and an SMG, and you can have 2 needlers which can cause absolute destruction. It's a great way to add to the gameplay, allow the player to experiment more, but also allow them to feel far more like a super soldier. The other new feature that Halo 2 introduced that for me really enhanced Chief and the Arbiter as characters was the fact that when you go up to a Marine or an Elite, you can swap your current gun with the one your Marine or Elite is holding. Sometimes they even give you the option of swapping from one which was relevant in the last section of the level to a new one going into the next part.
It's tight quarters on the other side, sir. Use this.
This for me not only shows how much the Marines and the Elites respect you and have to listen to you because of your ranking in the army, it once again makes you feel like a super soldier and that you are the real dominant force within this war. But it also allows you to play around with your arsenal once again. When going into a section, you can make your Marines or Elites hold guns that may be either effective going forward with them holding snipers for example, or giving them beam rifles to maybe give you a chance in this bloody section, or it can allow you to keep swapping back and forth to make you far more deadly. For me, especially in the mission Regret, I always like to make sure my Marines carry with them snipers and shotguns. It allows me to swap between long range and close quarters with ease, and if they survive the fight somehow, then it means I have a portable UNSC gun dispenser, which is, you know, is really cool. The great thing as well is they don't run out of ammo if you give the Marines that gun, meaning they can use the sniper for as long as possible and it won't run out of bullets. So when going through levels, if you just have 1 bullet left on your sniper, you can give it to a Marine and suddenly you have a sniper support. These new features just add for so much more experimenting in levels. It means you aren't just limited to 2 guns at a time. You can now hold 2 different guns at one time, whilst the Marines you are with have a fully customizable kit with you, and you can use every weapon you want against the Covenant. There's also the other little feature of being able to hijack an enemy vehicle, which is so satisfying if you get it right. Once again, it makes you feel like that super soldier who has Spartan speed to grab onto a moving vehicle, be able to use his body to swing round and violently kick a 7-foot tall enemy out of it and start driving away. I mean, it's so cool. I truly believe that Halo 2 had the best combat out of all of the Halo games. It is a real shame the assault rifle and the iconic pistol weren't in the game, but thanks to the vast arsenal at your disposal and the uniqueness of being able to dual wield a good selection of both Covenant and human weapons, it makes for some really enjoyable gameplay where player experimentation is key to progressing through the levels. To finish off this section, I just wanted to say the battle rifle is incredible and one of the best guns in Halo in my opinion, especially in the anniversary. The sound it makes when firing is just incredible. But yeah, anyway, Halo 2 had for me the best gameplay in all the Halos and really helped make you feel like a true super soldier. I won't talk much about this point because, to be completely honest, I am not the best Halo 2 player. I won't be competing in competitions anytime soon, and I'm lucky if I ever get a positive KD ratio in games. But Halo 2 for me was really one of the best online experiences that I had ever played back in the day. This was one of the first Xbox Live titles, and just being able to play one of the most anticipated games together with my friends at home and with people all over the world was truly special. The way it brought people together was monumental, and also matched that with the fact that because of the way the combat system worked, it was just extremely fun to play. The vast array of different maps, all with really unique looking environments, some with close quarter areas and some with large open areas with vehicle combat, just made for some of the most fun game nights of my teenage years. Still to this day, Halo 2 is great fun to play on MCC, and I say that whilst most of the time being bottom of the leaderboard. When I can lose gunfight after gunfight, game after game, and still feel like Halo 2 is a really fun game to play online, then that to me shows that Halo 2's online experience was and still is extremely fun and appealed to a huge audience. I don't like Halo 2 Anniversary Online, but every time I go back to classic Halo 2, I feel at home. It's great fun to play, and I still have never-ending fond memories when I first booted this game up and played my first online game on Zanzibar. It was such a thrill of a moment, and although I had played online on Unreal Tournament and Quake on PC before this game's release, there was something special about Halo 2. The combat, the friends, and the heavily populated servers with people all over the world made for such a unique community, one that has played a positive impact on millions of players all around the world. To summarise, I truly believe that Halo 2 was one of the most well-written FPS stories that I had ever seen in gaming. It captured so many fans all over the world and set a standard for storytelling going forward. The voice acting, the characterisation of all the characters, the development of the enemy factions all helped make for a truly immersive game that is still well received to this date. That matched with the revolutionary online multiplayer just helped elevate the series into one of the most iconic games ever seen. Not only was Halo one of the first console shooters to compete with the PC titans, but it was also now a game that could bring people together, set up competitive scenes, and help forge one of the largest communities in gaming. Halo 2 was and still is a huge title and idolised by gamers new and old everywhere, and hopefully in this video I have explained why I truly believe it became the iconic title that is known as today, and how it went from being a mysterious new IP that had great combat into an absolutely beautiful and memorable piece of narrative with gameplay that had evolved into something new and special. But I want to know what you guys think. What did you think of Halo 2, and what was it about this game that made you love it so much? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry this is another long one, although to be honest, going forward most of these videos will be around this length just so I can cover as much as possible. But anyways, I'll leave my Patreon, Discord and Twitter in the description below if you want to support me on there. But thank you for watching, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.